You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, we are live. Welcome. On June 20th, Romanian authorities indicted former kickboxer and controversial media personality Andrew Tate on charges of sex trafficking and rape, as well as forming and running a criminal enterprise. But he wasn't alone. Also charged was his brother, Tristan Tate, along with two women, Georgina Nagal and Luana Radu. Today, I'm going to discuss the charges against Andrew Tate and his criminal cabal, as well as his similarities between Tate and Keith Raniere and Larry Ray, two convicted sex traffickers whose trial I have covered. And also, I'm going to explain why I think Andrew Tate is the world's dumbest criminal. Stay tuned, and I'll be back right after this little break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So they are, I misspoke, they are charged with human trafficking. So if there is a difference in that, if there's a slight difference, I am not familiar with Romanian law at all. I've only sat through 3 trafficking trials, New York trafficking trials. That's, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, Larry Ray, and Keith Raniere. I mean, all the NXIVM defendants, and they all pled out, but I was at their hearings from the early hearings on. So I feel like I have a little bit of perspective, at least from an American's view of what's going on in this case. But let's look at the charges against the Tate cabal. So Andrew Tate is charged with constituting an organized criminal group. So I would consider that the equivalent of creating a criminal enterprise, running a criminal enterprise. And of course, NXIVM was branded as that. And, they were referred to as a criminal enterprise in Keith Raniere's trial. Human trafficking in a continuous form with 4 material victims. So that's Andrew Tate. And obviously one, count. He's also charged with continued rape, 2 material acts. Tristan Tate is charged with constituting an organized criminal group, human trafficking, instigating to the assault or instigating violence, Georgina on one of the other victims. So he instigated, my understanding of this charge is he instigated Georgina to perform violence on one of the victims. Georgina is the same thing, criminal group, human trafficking in a continued form, 6 material acts on 6 victims, assault or other violence, illegal access to computer systems, and illegal modification of computer data. And Luana, very, very similar charges, human trafficking, 5 victims. So that's what we're looking at here. If you want to read more about it, it is linked in the description of this episode. But I thought it's very interesting to look. So when I first saw Andrew Tate being interviewed, I could not believe the similarities. I thought I was looking at the love child of Keith Raniere and Larry Ray. So he's very arrogant, like Keith Raniere, and smooth talking. And he has, obviously, from some of the videos we've seen where he's getting violent with the women, and very much, I mean, it looks exactly like Larry Ray getting violent with his victims and having that kind of tough guy. So he's really like a doppelganger. On one side, he has like this suave, he'll say in interviews, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. And very slick. So he has that slick Raniere side. He's also promising to make people rich, which is what Raniere did with Consumers Byline before he ever started NXIVM. And NXIVM was really created as a system that people could replicate and start their own ESP centers, executive success program centers. So it was a money-making venture, or it was set out to make it. But of course, with these cults, the only person that ever really gets wealthy are the people way, way at the top, like any kind of, I would call it NXIVM closest to a pyramid scheme in that way. But what I thought was also really interesting, so there are similarities, and I spoke about these. Here's from a tweet I wrote on June. I think I wrote this in July 20th. I said, as someone who sat through the sex trafficking trials of NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere and Sarah Lawrence cult leader Larry Ray, Tate's talking points and demeanor is alarmingly similar to Ray and Raniere. The jury didn't buy Ray and Raniere's claim that their victims had agency over their life and choices when they were kept captive by blackmail and intimidation. Doubt a jury will buy Tate's rap either. And that was before I knew he's not going to be in front of a jury. A judge is going to decide his fate. So I think that is a positive for Andrew Tate, because I can't imagine a jury warming to Andrew Tate or his brother or any of the defendants in this case. And Andrew Tate also asked his victims to brand themselves with his name or initial in the same spot, is my understanding, the same bikini area. That's, I guess, the nicest way to put it, spot. And the reaction by men to Raniere was really interesting. A lot of men would say, why did, Raniere go into branding women? He had it all. And I think there's a similar attitude towards Tate and his brother. They're living the life. They have the cars, they have the wealth, and they have a harem of women around them. And that was always a disturbing reaction to me, because is that really having it all? Because these women can't leave. Out of Tate's own mouth, they can't leave the compound without being escorted by someone who's going to really enforce Tate's wishes. So what are we talking about? I mean, is that what having it all is? Victimizing people to the hilt? I don't know. But it's certainly, this story coincides with so many of the things that I talk about. And for one is the vast difference between what you can say in court and what you can say in a PR campaign or what you can say to the media. And let's take a look. So Andrew Tate and his brother were in jail. Then they were given house arrest. Then they were released on house arrest. They still have to sign in with the police. So they're being watched to make sure they can't flee, because obviously they have the means and the motive to flee. And so basically they got released from house arrest. And let's look at Andrew Tate's quick interview that he did.
January, when I was thrown in the jail cell, the media reported and told the world that I was a terrible person. They said that I hurt people and I make a lot of money from criminal enterprise. And here we stand 7 or 8 months later, and I've not seen a single victim on the news. I don't know if you have. I've seen lots of girls sticking up for me, lots of people defending me. I've not seen a single person stand up and say that I have hurt them. Not one. It's very exhausting to continue to perpetuate lies. It's very hard to keep lies afloat when you have no actual evidence. We've been completely innocent since the beginning of this, and I have to give absolute faith to the Romanian judicial system for finally making the right decision and letting us free. I'm sure in the end we'll be absolutely exonerated, and everybody who was pushing these lies and reporting things on repeat without any substantial evidence are going to have to analyze within themselves why they decide to try and destroy people's lives purely for views. I've done nothing wrong. God knows I've done nothing wrong. In my heart, I know I've done nothing wrong. I think the people at home who with a functioning brain understand we've done nothing wrong, because nobody has yet to identify a single victim which is saying that we've done anything to them since the beginning of this entire process. Once again, absolute respect to the judge, respect to Romania, respect to the Romanian judicial system. I look forward to being completely exonerated in due time. Thank you.
Okay. Oh boy, that is packed with stuff that you will hear on this channel. So how many times did he say exonerated? So he's really punching that exonerated. And anybody with a functioning brain can see that there's no evidence. No evidence. It's amazing that he got indicted with no evidence. So I guess that the Romanian prosecutors are going to present their no evidence to the judge, and the judge is going to make his decision. It's going to be a really quick trial, right? So very much, he's very much in his element there. And why I think that he's doing these interviews with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and basically putting out as many bots as he can in spaces, and basically flooding the YouTube with as many pro Andrew Tate videos, pro Tristan Tate, pro Tate cabal videos as you're ever going to see. Expect more. Is because what they're doing is we're witnessing an innocence fraud campaign in real time. Usually these innocence fraud campaigns don't begin till 14 years after a conviction. But this, because it's being done in Romania, it can be done in real time because we don't know the charges. Right? We're not going to be able to read it in Romanian. Luckily, someone translated them, and they're all translated, translated in the documents in the description of this episode, and you can check them out and read them for yourself. But so what they're hoping to do, I believe, in my opinion, the Tates, is to put enough, get the American public, the world public on their side enough that it will put pressure on the Romanian courts to get them either acquitted or get them a lesser sentence. And should they be convicted of anything, we are going to see a innocence fraud campaign that begins, that continues on, from this. They were convicted on no evidence. They were convicted. The victims lied. It was a kangaroo court. The trial was unfair. They were persecuted for their political beliefs because he was Keith Raniere tried that. He's still trying that. He still has Alan Dershowitz out there and all the other experts. Check out YouTube. They're out there all the time saying it was an unfair trial, right? He was wrongly convicted. Amanda Knox has come to his defense. So this is not anything unusual for the people that have been following my channel. I'm going to take a quick break, get my voice a rest, and I'll meet you on the other side. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay, but one thing I think that Andrew Tate didn't expect is that there would be such diligent and dedicated researchers out there willing to put themselves out there really like in the crosshairs, because Andrew Tate has some serious supporters, not just Candace Owens, not just Tucker Carlson, some serious supporters and a whole host of bots that will attack anyone that comes out and says, Andrew Tate, I think he's guilty. I believe his victims. And so you saw there in that press conference, because his victims haven't put their face out there in the press for that very reason, that he's exploiting that. He's saying, well, you haven't seen anyone in the media, so therefore there are really no charges. These are all, I don't know if he's saying they're made up, that these are made up people, or they're made up charges, or they're, I don't know, come from nowhere. But it's clear, and this is why I think he's the dumbest criminal. I don't think I've ever seen a case where the defendants have documented and doubled down documenting and reaffirmed their crimes so much. Not just the videos, the text messages. I mean, just like the instruction tapes, how to do this. He was giving instructions to people, to men, selling it on how to do this, on how to basically traffic women. And he's like, yeah, you just got to get violent with them. So it's absurd that people are saying that this is made up and that he's innocent. And the more Andrew Tate and his brother talk, the better for his victims and the better for society at large, in my opinion. Keep them talking. So let's look at two people who've done a really great job. One is, goes by Murder by Kranz, and one goes by Milk Bar TV. And we're going to look at Milk Bar TV's video. And this came out after Candace Owens did her interview with Andrew Tate. Let's take a look.
Webcam business.
Yeah, so I stopped having any involvement with it, I think 8 to 9 years ago.
The last 2 to 3 years, I've been making money on OnlyFans from its inception all the way up to now. I'm currently filming this during the COVID pandemic. You may be watching this later on, but right now during the pandemic.
So that's another thing. Like, I really don't believe that Andrew Tate or his brother or anyone in this Tate criminal cabal has the money that they say they do. And the longer, and they have decided to sue their victims And these lawyers do not come cheap. They have hired Joseph McBride, who, along with Marty Tankleff, who I believe is very guilty of killing his adoptive parents, Arlene and Seymour Tankleff, handled Keith Raniere's appeal. So these lawyers do not come cheap. And I would think money is going to become a real issue the more this litigation goes on. And I wouldn't be surprised if they become totally bankrupt by the end of it.
And I ended up opening a webcam company where girls would sit on a laptop and they would talk to guys on the internet for money. That's what they would do.
It's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm taking over. So what I did is I unplugged their keyboards and plugged a new one in from me behind the screen. So the chicks would sit there and hit a keyboard that wasn't plugged in. And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking.
The girls would sit there fully clothed or a bikini.
The girls were just pure, just famoosers, just laughing and doing this, their titties out.
One, I intimately understand the relationship between men and these websites.
And they were talking to fucking...
So that's another way that they're very similar to NXIVM. NXIVM made all these various businesses, put them in all these names, so it was impossible to track the money. Also, Keith Raniere he called himself I'm going to mess up, renunciant. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. But basically, someone who spiritually gave up everything, didn't own anything. So he did very little. So you see, Allison Mack was the person who handled DOS. He was really the grandmaster behind DOS, meaning dominus over submissive, or basically the secret society of NXIVM, of slaves and masters. And he had Allison Mack do the disciplining. You'll see the same kind of thing here. And that's why the women defendants have more charges in relation to victims than Andrew Tate or his brother does, because of this, like, we'll make them enforce it. We'll make the women enforce it. Women would be more prone to doing this kind of thing if other women be the example for them or tell them what to do, or are the enforcers. And that's how that was set up. NXIVM, very similar thing. So in DOS, the slave masters were all women, right? It was secret sorority of women on the surface, really for self-improvement, but really in reality, it was really just a harem of women for Keith Raniere to sleep with.
Ice cold hustlers. We were taking their money, all of it.
I've had and seen men give away their life savings to girls they've never met. I've watched and I've seen it.
They come and say, what kind of, all of it. We're fucking milking them. I mean,
I was the person on the keyboard getting their money under fraudulent means. What a thing to admit, right?
Dry.
And I actually think a lot of the insights I give.
I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all.
A lot of the things I tell the world about the male mental health crisis.
You'd have a
You
guy.
feel bad or no?
Fuck no. Give a solitary fuck.
About men being so constantly lonely.
That's another thing. They're both psychopaths with real sadistic sides. I mean, not even sides. I would say that's the essence of them, is sadism. Both Raniere, Ray, and Andrew Tate.
We got to the point where we had these guys falling in love with my models, serious, big time in love, right? Sending crazy money. And they were convinced they were going to meet the chick. This is almost where I kind of felt bad.
About how important it is to build yourself into a high value man.
Because they were like, can we meet? I've sent you $200,000. Can we meet? Can we meet? Can we meet?
About how money alone is not enough.
The problem
What was
is
the most that one person sent to a model? Total.
million?
Wow. Wow.
About a mil in about a year?
You don't feel bad at all.
Why the fuck would I
Yeah,
care?
I don't feel bad either.
So, thank you.
I explain all these things. A lot of these are lessons from the webcam days. I saw dudes who had a whole bunch of money, no other attributes, and they ended up on these websites spending hundreds of thousands of dollars because they didn't have anything else.
I would think that these videos telling people these instructional videos would be very much centered, if I had to guess, to the prosecutor's case in Romania. And it's interesting to note that in the NXIVM case against Rick Allen Ross, the cold expert, one of the charges against Nancy Salzman was that she manipulated these NXIVM ESP, courses. They had tapes of them, and they cut things out of those tapes that were illegal, meaning making promises that they were healing diseases and things like that. They cut them out of the tape that was going to be evidence in Rick Ross's trial. And very interesting here, I would think that all these tapes on how to run a business like the Tates would be very central to prosecuting them.
But so the girl would be online for 6 or 7 hours, but then when she logged off, was sleeping or whatever, on her WhatsApp, I'd have staff. She was online 24 hours a day. Her WhatsApp, her this. She was famoosing when she was asleep. We were bringing in money from the fucking sky.
But this is what the powers that be want. They want to make sure that the male populace is as docile as possible, and they do that with a large array of weapons, and they do that with a web of tools. And I believe that I'm the counter to that, which is the reason I ended up attacked in the first place.
And maybe this is a bit bad. Here's where the famoose would start.
Right. It wasn't all the criminal behavior he's admitting to in text messages, on video, in various interviews. And yet he knows this, and yet he can't stop talking. Like, it's just too delicious. So once again, he loves, this is his arena. The arena of media where you can say anything, do anything, basically, within reason. I mean, obviously there's slander. You can slander someone. But, I mean, it's hugely, there's no punishment for lying to the media. Not so in court. You don't have to prove what you're saying. You just have to say it. And if you get caught lying, so what? But in court, it's quite different. It's a perjury charge. Oh, it's so dumb. I would hate to be these guys' lawyers too. That's another thing. Mark Agnefello just absolutely, just by his body language and what I observed, just ended up resenting Keith Raniere so much by the end of that trial, because these kind of clients think that they know everything. They think that they know better. So I wouldn't be surprised if their own lawyers have told them to not do any media, to be quiet, not talk about the case. And yet here they are, they cannot stop talking. They're still out there. They're still tweeting, giving interviews, and talking.
So it'd be good. Like, I had a lot of girls who worked for me, and the best was like the Ukrainians or the Russians. It was amazing because they'd get some guy, fall in love, they'd arrange the day to meet, all this shit. I need a visa. Okay, get a visa. I need money for a visa. Okay, how much is a visa? It's $900. No, but it's not $900 because I went to the embassy. They think I'm a risk, and I need a return flight there and back. And I need a hotel. I need to have spending money in my bank account. They won't let me come. Or how much you need? All right, 10 grand. Boom, it's 10 G's. Okay, thanks.
Wow.
Go to the embassy, take a picture outside the embassy. Boom, come back. They rejected my visa. They said we have to wait 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, they'll give it to me. Okay, baby. Boom, 2 more weeks of tips. Boom, 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 boom. Because now he thinks he's gonna fuck, right? Thinks we get the girls. Now he's spending more than ever. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. 2 weeks come. Some other problem.
I think I can anticipate the question you're going to ask. How do I reconcile with the fact that I used to produce pornography or degree pornographic content?
Now men are writing to you, like, how do I?
And now men are trying to escape it.
Yeah.
Girls are desperately signing up because it's the easy way for you to make money, but without instruction. Pimpin' Ken, a hoe without instruction is headed for self-destruction. So these girls, they don't have a man telling them what to do properly. They're lazy, and they end up making a few bucks, maybe if that, and they stay on the very, very bottom of the pile. You don't want that. You bought this course, you want to make your money back, and you want to continue to make money for a long time. So you want your girls to be elite. I'm going to teach you how to do that. Eventually, the girl, what she would do is she'd say, oh, I don't want to go embassy. She'd give a really lame excuse to try and provoke the man to get angry. So she'd say, the embassy want me to come back, but I have a headache. That was the one we'd use. He'd be like, I just sent you $1 million. You promised you were going to come. You said you had to delay. Now you're saying you have a fucking headache and you won't go to your appointment, to make him mad on purpose, because that would annoy any man. And then
that would annoy any man. I think that would annoy any woman too. I love how he makes these like specific to one biological sex or the other. Yeah. So after you sent someone a pile of money, they say they have a headache, and he says women are lazy. Oh, it's so funny. So funny. The other really thing they have in common is that these men are so mediocre. And I would put Andrew Tate and his brother in the same category. Keith Raniere, Larry Ray. Amazingly mediocre, with huge, huge egos. And everything that they've acquired has been sucking off the talent and beauty and assets of women. That's one thing they should certainly have in common.
That's what we needed. We needed a little trigger. We go, why are you being aggressive? I'm not being aggressive, but you're not serious, da-da-da. And then we'd say, but you know what? I really like you, and I'm flying to the other side of the world by myself, and now you're being aggressive, and now I'm intimidated. And we'd flip it on them, saying, well, now you're being scary. No, I'm not being scary, but you know, it's your appointment. You're supposed to go, yeah, but I feel sick, and you don't.
So that's like a real straight up pimp, street hustler tactic to put it on you. Well, why are you getting aggressive? I've just don't talk about my behavior. Let's put it on you, your behavior. And cults do that too, right? You have any problem with NXIVM? Any kind of cult? Larry Ray's cult? What's wrong with you? Why are you so? What's deficient in you? And certainly I see that on this podcast with people who disagree with me. You're a terrible person. You're a blah, blah, blah. That all may be true, but that doesn't argue your point that so-and-so didn't commit the crime. That's not evidence of, whatever you're trying to put forward in terms of an argument.
You don't even care. Female bullshit. And flip it on him. Flip it on him. And he'd get fucking furious because we were really good at
playing
fucking
both sides.
Poking him. To the point where you go like, you're a fucking scammer. You fucking scam me. You're really mad. I can't believe you think I was a scammer. I was going to come. I went to the embassy. You're a fucking liar.
You should avoid, if you're a dishonest person, if you lie, if you're going to deceive me, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I don't want to have anything to do with you.
The guy would get pissed off, right? And leave. Stop tipping her. Stop coming to her. But for these men, that's the only chick in the world, the only hot chick in the world who talks to him. Maybe it takes a week. Maybe it takes 2 weeks. Maybe it takes 3 weeks. He's in bed at night, alone, jerking off, looking at her old videos and pictures, watching her stream again from another account so she can't see it's him, sitting there going, maybe she was going to come. Maybe I just got too mad when she had a headache. Maybe I should.
So you see, he's like not just exploiting women. He's happy to exploit men. Anything that benefits Andrew Tate and the Tate cabal, he is down to do. I mean, that was my impression.
Have been a little bit more patient, and she would have been my girlfriend. And 100% of the time, in less than 3 months, they'd be back with an apology, a brand new pile of money, and the cycle would repeat. We fucking killed the game. Millions of dollars a week. And it was not just because I had beautiful girls. It's not because webcam is easy. It's because I am a genius. And I put together an apparatus of genius behind the avatar of beauty. And
right. So there you'll see it's all my work. Right. And you saw in the interviews with Keith Raniere, when the conventional approach doesn't work, maybe the unconventional approach will. I'm a genius. I made this work because I'm a genius. But I don't ever think that they were making the kind of money that they say they were making. When they took all their assets, they were worth $4 million. Hardly the first trillionaire that Andrew Tate likes to say he is. And that money will go very fast to lawyers. Very quickly, it dissolves, let me tell you.
And we fucking conquered the internet.
It's all massively hypocritical.
Okay, nice job. That's Milk Bar TV. Go subscribe to them. A link is in the description of this episode. I think I'm going to keep it really brief today. But that's really what I have to say today about Andrew Tate and the Tate cabal. Expect more nonsense from their massive PR campaign. And keep your eyes wide open because they have their bots. They have their PR campaign. There's a lot of money behind this. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I know next to nothing about the Romanian legal system. It will be interesting. I will be watching it closely. My eyes are peeled to the story. I can't stop reading about it. I'm very interested in seeing how this plays out. But be aware, be very aware. You know, I don't believe that these media figures like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, I don't believe that they get duped. I really don't. I think they know. I think that they weighed their options. And it was really funny. I was in the spaces today on Twitter talking about the Andrew Tate and his criminal defendants. And people were like, well, it's so amazing that these people would throw their good name and their weight behind a possible really dangerous criminal. I felt like saying, welcome to my world. So many do. Wait till they get when the price is right, whether an expert wants to come on board in terms of someone like Alan Dershowitz or some kind of other forensic legal expert, celebrity, et cetera, et cetera. It never cease to amaze me the amount of people willing to support really dangerous and deranged people. But it goes on and on. I guess that Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens decided that this would be the position that would make them the most money, be best for them, and they went with it. Candace Owens, I understand, has some connection with the Tate brothers, is friendly with them, and her husband is too. That is what I've heard. I don't know. But let me know if you know anything more about that, or let me know what you think of the Tates in the comments below, and I'll see you back next time. Have a great night, everybody.